Good evening. My name is Billy King, and I'm going to be giving you guys a speech on gun safety and tips for gun safety. The reason this pertains to you, viewers at home, the reason this pertains to you is because according to the Department of Social and Health Services, nearly half of all U.S. homes contain a gun residence somewhere. So statistically speaking, that means that either one of you sitting in this audience or you at home will either live in a house that has a gun in it, or your neighbor is going to have a gun in their house at some point. So either you can take these tips and use them, or you know somebody that owns a gun can take these tips and pass it on to them. So according to the Industry Intelligence Report from the National Shooting and Sports Foundation, there were 600 fatalities in 2011 that were gun-related. Google defines the word fatality as death due to an accident. So those numbers weren't too high. They were actually a lot lower than most other sports, but they can be reduced, and the way that we can do that is to stay vigilant in the way that we go about our safe gun handling. So we're going to start out with tips. Some tips for safe gun handling. I've got about 10 that I'm going to go over. First thing you want to do is make sure that you keep the muzzle pointed in a safe direction, which means that you shouldn't be pointing the gun at anything that you don't intend to shoot. If you're doing that, you're probably wrong. Another thing that you need to keep in mind when you are handling a firearm is that you do not need to keep the gun loaded when it's not in use. Unless maybe, say for instance, it's your home protection firearm, in which case you should still keep the gun unloaded, with the clip outside of it, and you can still put the clip in and use it if need be. Next tip I'm going to go over, do not rely on the safety. So you should never have your finger on the trigger if you don't intend to shoot. So don't rely on that safety switch, because even though there's a safety on the weapon, that is used as a last resort, so don't rely on it. Another thing, when you go out to the shooting range, you need to make sure that you know what you're shooting at. So know what you're shooting at, know what your target is, and make sure you know what's behind the target. If you don't know what's behind the target, you can potentially hit somebody that you don't even know is there, which is a big thing. When you're loading your ammunition, make sure that you're using the proper ammo in your weapon, which means that if it's your target shooting, you should be using target ammo, and make sure you're using the right caliber ammo for the weapon that you're going to be firing. You pull the trigger while the gun is loaded. Make sure that you handle the firearm with care. Okay? You now have a bullet that has received the strike to the back of it, and this could be a potentially dangerous situation, so make sure after you pull the trigger, the firearm does not go off. Make sure that you safely handle that weapon to avoid any potential mishaps. Before you start firing, make sure that your barrel is free of obstructions. So before you got to the range, make sure you check your firearm one last time. Make sure that the barrel's clear, and the firearm is going to fire effectively the first time when you pull the trigger, and all the way up into your last shot. Another big thing that you shouldn't be doing, do not alter the weapon that you go and purchase from the store. Unless you are a trained firearms technician, you shouldn't be altering this weapon in any way. Make sense? Alright, last thing. Learn how the weapon that you have, the firearm, make sure you know how the firearm works. So you go out to the range, get there, make sure you know how it works, make sure you know how the safety works, and if you follow these tips that I just gave you, I think you guys will be pretty safe out there. So basically, for the conclusion of this, I just want you guys to know that fatalities can be reduced if you use proper gun safety. And you guys all heard the definition on that one. So basically, the reason I'm giving you guys this speech is so we can maybe mitigate anything that could potentially turn into a fatality or mishap when we're handling more. Thank you guys. Thank you for listening to my speech. Don't stop that.